Hello, this is my presentation on Acadia National Park with their draft for transportation plan. The overview of the project. The popularity of Acadia National Park has caused the increase in visitation in recent years. The popularity comes from the beautiful hiking paths, the scenery, historic transportation corridors, camping, kayaking, canoeing. The park even provides education, including presentations, guided walks, education programs, and outreach programs. And every year they have about 3 million visitors at Acadia National Park, and it's become impossible to meet the demand for designated parking spaces. So the main purpose of the transportation plan is to provide safe and efficient transportation, but while maintaining the park's resources and values. The plan looks at the current and potential transportation and the access opportunities, and addresses how visitors would access the different destinations with limited parking spaces. So the park will provide the public transit called the Island Explorer to all visitors that need a ride after all the reservations are taken. And there are many transportation issues at the park that are complex and diverse. Traffic includes taxis, private vehicles, commercial motor coaches, bus tours, and pedestrians. So for environmental impacts, the first advantage is that not adding additional parking spaces will help protect and preserve the soil and the vegetation at the national park. The next is the transportation activities and systems will help improve the air and water quality at the park, because this allows to not have cars which emit nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, particulate matter, and smog. A small disadvantage is that the town of Bar Harbor becomes very populated. This causes some concern. The parking is limited and commute times are becoming unbearable for locals. And the idea of implementing buses to move park visitors has mixed reviews, but it will help reduce the number of cars at Acadia, but increase the amount of traffic in Bar Harbor. And this is called over-tourism, and that scares wildlife away, leads to soil erosion, increases air and land pollution, and destroys natural habitats. Health impacts. There are many positive health impacts of preserving soil and vegetation, like monitoring temperature changes, reducing soil erosion, saving money on landscaping. And the soil removes contaminants from water and food sources, and it helps regulate the flow of biogeochemical cycles. And it also helps reduce the number of vehicles at the park. So this, in turn, improves the air quality, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and preserves more vegetation. With reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, it'll lead to a reduction in air pollutants, and that will help improve the air, and then hopefully lower disease rates for respiratory and cardiac diseases. I spoke with public affairs specialist Christy Anastasia, and we had a few things we talked about, like the neighboring communities or any public can have any input from June 27th to June 26th. And Acadia really wants input from the community because they really care about what we think. The plan also looks at managing private and commercial vehicles more than it looks at managing visitor use, but they do understand this can be an issue and they need more research and planning on it. And she also made a great point to talk about the historical resources and character that will need to be protected at Acadia. The main attractions are the network of historic roads, carriage roads and trails, cultural landscapes, and ethnogeographic resources and values. My proposed action or recommendation is, with the annual visitation increasing, or putting the wildlife and vegetation at risk. With visitors obviously become more vehicles that emit emissions that are harmful to our air and land. So to protect the environment, we're using the transportation plan. So the public transit will provide a ride for the visitors and allow them to leave their vehicles behind. And this will allow more visitors to come in, but not have to create additional parking spaces, so we can protect the landscape and the resources. And this also provides safety for the pedestrians when we use public transportation. This applies to motorcycles, bicycles, walkers, runners, people on the sides of the roads. The transportation also reduces crowding, congestion, safety risks, emergency response delays, vegetation damage, and improves the air quality. So when it comes to safety, to monitor, the park rangers are the number one. They're responsible for ensuring visitors have a safe experience After all the changes are implemented for the park, the rangers can enforce the rules and ensure the public safety for the public. I think it'll be relatively easy for them to keep track of how many injuries are reported, so they can report all those and hopefully improve. To monitor the air quality, we've established the Clean Air Act for criteria of pollutants, and this criteria was developed by the OAQPS, and each state has their own annual summary of monitoring results, and every state has a special purpose monitor, and it can be monitored locally, and we can make specific goals for each state. And the air and land pollution can be easily monitored by the park rangers, park staff, volunteers, and visitors. And in a more in-depth, we can take soil, take samples, and test them for contaminants. These are my references. Thank you so much.